Black History Day. Okay, so once we had that, we started getting into more designs, different characters. There was a Blackout character, and again, someone else that we had bigger plans for, but just not enough pages. And the Outsider too.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to get into a little.
Well, the Blackout character was a character that Jeff did come up with, you know, and we talked about his design and things like that. Someday, we were talking about doing something else with him. But it was just something that was just a collaborative effort. Jeff's got ideas for it, and maybe someday it'll come up.
And then on the Outsider, you couldn't believe who he was, the fact that he was Alfred back
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, and you thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking when I redesigned him a little bit, I was thinking a little bit Grant Morrison. Just a little bit in the crackly head.
Right.
I don't know why Grant always comes into my mind sometimes.
I think it's the crackly head.
But, no, that's what he came about.
Okay. And then James, we turned it over to you into making it into, really fleshing him out.
Yeah. Well, you didn't really give me much to go with. I mean, it was just this guy. What did Jeff say to me? Basically, he told me the origin, that the birth in India, and that was it.
Right.
Pretty much, and that he wore suits. So I sort of had a pretty blank canvas to work with, and I enjoyed the challenge of the fact that he's probably the one character from the whole, in terms of the crosser, in terms of the books, where there was literally no perception of that character at all. So the challenge of creating the character and making the series feel, something you could read on its own if you wanted to, but also didn't feel superfluous to the actual main storyline. So I was, so having those conversations that happen in both books and stuff like that, I was, that was a goal I had from day one, really.
Right. And you were also able to flesh out even the fact that the Outsider did not like Blackout, which again is something we wanted to do in the main book and just didn't have to do.
Yeah. Had I known how little you were going to use him ultimately, Blackout, I maybe would have featured him more in the Outsider. I just thought that he was going to get his own book or something, and then.
So did we. Again,
and
page count.
It was too late to change things by the time. Yeah, but I really enjoyed writing that book, and I just did a panel a minute ago. Someone asked me if I'd like to do any more with him, and I actually enjoyed writing that character. I'd like to work with him again in the future if he exists in the post. I have no idea if he does, but if he exists in post Flashpoint world, I think there's a lot of potential.
And then, so we also grew because we were trying to build out then, the different things between Kid Flash Boss stuff, as well as, getting into Aquaman, which, in this world, because they had no influence between the comic strips that they get in the Justice League, you see how distant these two became, how different, and in some ways, really evil. So, on that, Andy Lanning and Dan Abnett helped us realize Diana and get into her history, while Tony Bedard helped us, realize what Arthur Curry would have been like if he had no, guidance from anybody, human. So that fleshed out that world, and we done some more stuff. And Brian actually helped on the Wonder Woman one as well as some of the others. So, Brian, you want to see how you got brought in and trying to make, this kind of reality and history count? No, this year you first.
Really, what the Aquaman and Wonder Woman parts of the story boiled down to was how did it get this far? How did it evolve to this? And ultimately, a lot of from the Wonder Woman side of the miniseries, that explored how it got so bad, how these people who started out as the same characters, how did they get to this level of antagonism? That's what we really explored with that one.
Yeah, because the main thing that Jeff was careful about saying is that these necessarily weren't, out-and-out villains. They didn't start out as villains. So they were still the same characters, but, we really explored what changed them. In essence, we had other changes, too, which was coming with the Green Lantern stuff. again, Ryan handled that with, you know, the role that if Admiral Swords died really changed what Hal Jordan thinks about as well.
Yeah, a lot of that was what kind of a person would Hal Jordan be if he never received the Green Lantern ring? And working with the writer Adam Schlagman, who you might recognize as a longtime DC editor, especially on the Green Lantern books, and we had some very interesting conversations between us and Jeff, and what would happen with Hal if he never got that ring. What kind of a person would he be, and what kind of character arc would he have if he didn't have that ring? And it turned out Hal was not quite the same guy after Abin Sur lands on Earth. This time, Abin Sur's not dead. It doesn't give him the ring, and we wanted to explore how the ring changed Hal by showing him never having gotten it. And the series took some turns that we really liked exploring. I don't know if anybody's had the chance to read the last issue, but his character arc, he starts out from a position of kind of a selfish guy. He's a bit of a screw up, and it's a credit to Hal when he gets the ring, how he turns his life around in the regular DC universe. But in the Flashpoint universe, he never had that opportunity. He never turned around. So the Flashpoint miniseries kind of gives him another scenario to make a change, and he sees it because he's still Hal Jordan.